Hi, friend. Welcome to Wild and Waking, a sacred space for the woman unraveling what no longer fits, remembering the truth that's always lived inside her, reclaiming her joy, her voice, her power, and rising fully, fiercely, and without apology. I'm your host, Emily Rushell, and together we'll explore what it means to live in alignment, lead with soul, and awaken a life of abundance, authenticity, and purpose. Let's begin. Hi, friends, and welcome back to Wild and Waking. It has been a month. I think I said that the last solo episode, and LOL, I did not even know what I was in for. Whatever chaos I was describing then was really just the beginning. It's actually taking me a few weeks to even record this episode, which is why you got 2 guests in a row. Thankfully, I had those on deck and ready. Life is hard. And I think the conversation that we're going to have today is what it looks like to hold the duality of it all and to be in the seasons where every bit of who you are feels so far away. So for context, I don't know what, 4 weeks ago, I could at the time for sure feel the pressure building. If you haven't listened to my last solo episode, just pause here, go listen to that one for a little context of what the beginning of summer was like. But over the course of month 4 of postpartum, which is always my hardest, I had increasingly anxious thoughts, increasingly intrusive thoughts, and got to the point of realizing that I was actually experiencing depression that is very uncharacteristic for me. Like a complete and total sense of hopelessness, of just feeling like everything is so hard and it's not going to get better. And I think and maybe this is just me, but maybe you relate to this too. When I think about depression or even postpartum depression or what we call the baby blues, I have this like picture in my head of a person who like can't get out of bed and everything in their life is like no longer functioning and is just like crying all the time. And I know that that is true and real for some people, and maybe it has been for you. But it turns out you can actually be super depressed and also super functional and still singing along in the car with your kids and, smiling and creating happy moments. But I got to the point where everything just felt like a weight that I couldn't get out from with increasing intensity. Like, how do I describe this? Like a cloud of thoughts in my mind that became louder than my own. And the reality is, like, this is hard. I have 2 elementary school kids, and I'm basically back in 2 under 2 again. It's not going to get easier anytime soon, if ever, right? And so I had, this week of like building pressure. And I had realized, wow, it's probably good for me to reach out to my therapist, even though I haven't been to therapy in a few years. And when I called, I got put on a wait list, which is like, we could record a whole nother episode of just how effed the mental health care system is in, this country, much less part of the world, much less rural community. But I got put on a wait list, and then I, talked to my midwife and she put in the referral. And so then I was just like in this limbo where I already felt so desperate and helpless. And then like felt like there was no end in sight, no explanation, no support. And, had this like pinnacle of an evening where, with no exaggeration, like had myself a little mental breakdown and just like could not stop crying for like 24 hours. And anyway, I am in a significantly better place. I did, in fact, get in with my therapist and have gotten to see her and talk to her a few times. And that paired with some really good conversations with some friends and mentors, paired with I'm in a different part of my cycle, not surprising. that all of this came crashing down as I began menstruating again. And just in a month that has historically been the hardest for me. And the blessing of being on the fourth kid is like I have history and context to make sense of what's happening around me. And still, like it doesn't make it any easier. And a realization that I had for those who have been listening for a really long time, this will make sense to you. I began my health and my personal growth journey in 2019 after my second was born. And in 2019, 2020, 2021 was the most healthy physically, mentally, and emotionally well I have ever felt. Like I was running half marathons. I was like taking care of myself in all of these new ways. I started sharing online. I started my business. And yeah, there were some like things that kind of came crashing, which is why I started therapy in the first place. But even through that, like my business was growing, my self-awareness was growing, like my relationships were growing. Like there was so much of this identity that I loved that I created in that time. And I feel like I worked so hard and also it came so easily in a lot of ways. And I just really loved every bit of who I was and who I was becoming in a way that I had never experienced before. And then in February of 2023, I found out I was pregnant with our third. And that was a little hard. Pregnancy is not kind to me. And, postpartum is wild in itself. But I think I still had that like glimmer of, okay, here's my life that I have created. And now I have this cute baby. And sure, like pregnancy and postpartum is hard, but like I think there was still a little bit of like hope and understanding of like, I will get back to the way that I have felt before, which now that I'm saying that out loud is like a terribly cruel thing to do to ourselves. And just, in my postpartum period with her, I mean, postpartum being like a year plus, is when I started doing a lot of unraveling and deconstructing. And so, I had just gotten to the point where it felt like everything was coming together and I was really ready to sprint with it and like kind of like rebuild this next evolution of self and work and life and identity and business. And I cried so hard the day that I found out I was pregnant with my fourth, because I think there was like so many parts of me that knew what was going to be in store, all of which I have shared over the past year and a half on the podcast. And I think I had the realization on kind of like the immediate other side of this breakdown of like, there's no going back. And logically, I know that. See, that's what I feel like I've been playing with lately is like what I logically know, what I know to be true, and like what I feel inside my body are two different things. And I think a lot of what I've been experiencing the past couple of weeks is deep grief for a lot of things. I think I logically know that there are so much meaning and purpose in everything that has transpired. And there will be new iterations born of me through this that I could have never articulated. And I'm so excited for that. And also, it feels devastating because I know what it feels like to fight like hell to get to the other side of that. And because these last two were unexpected, I think that there's this like grief and tension for like, and this resistance of like, I didn't choose this on purpose. And now I want to be clear, someday it is very well likely that my daughters will listen to this. And for anyone who is posting anything on the internet, whether you are a creator or just a mom with a Facebook page, like the things that we say and we do and we post and we share on the internet have the potential to be and or will definitely be found by our children. And so my kids, I want you to hear this. I love you so wholly. And I know that in this lifetime and beyond, we have chosen each other. And there is nothing I love more than being your mom. And you bring me so much joy and delight. And I am so honored that I get to be on this planet in this lifetime with you. There has been so much meaning in my journey and our journey together. So please, when you hear this, know that I fully choose you over and over and over again. And also, I am just a girl. I'm just a mom learning to do this for the very first time. And it's hard right now. And there's like the part of me that's kicking and screaming of like, see back there what that was like and how good you felt. And right now you don't. And so I think there's a part of me that still has the resistance to like fully radically accepting like the trajectory of what the next several years and beyond have in store and what that means for me and my identity and my day-to-day reality and my bandwidth in ways that's mine to work through. And that's what I am back in therapy for. And I know that I am a massively imperfect mom. And I also know that I'm committed every day to doing the work on myself, for our family, and for myself, because I am the best mom when I am the best me. But it's still so hard. And, we are back in basically 2 under 2 with 2 other kids who have needs and desires and schedules and intentions and appointments of their own. And our bandwidth is really stretched. The last time we did 2 under 2 was really hard on Andrew and I. And so to be back in this season feels a little bit defeating because it feels like, no, we already did this. We fought so hard to be past it. And here we are. And my God, it is such a beautiful place to be also. Like watching our big kids get to be big brother and big sister to their little sisters is one of the most incredible things I've ever experienced in my life. They have so much joy, and it is the greatest gift. And also it is hard. And also Andrew and I have to become the type of people that can hold the bandwidth and the frequency for our home. And that has been very stretchy for us. We are realizing the extent to our neurodivergent while raising neurodivergent kids and doing our best to support them. We are untangling our expectations and conditioning. We are supporting our own mental health needs while also trying to maintain the mental health needs of an entire family that is changing while everyone's also home for the summer. And yeah, it's freaking awesome. We've done so many cool things. We've gotten to go to camps. We've gone swimming. And we are so grateful that that is the reality. And also, it is hard. The lack of consistency and schedule is hard. I know. I have been able to say this for as long as I've been a mom. I am not built to be a stay-at-home mom. I am not my best self. I have always, and now more than ever, I am obsessed with the work that I do. And now I can finally say that and know that it's not in an unhealthy hustle culture, weird expectation, corporate grind, whatever kind of way. Like the work that I do, the business that I have built is such a source of life force energy for me. And not working right now feels like dying. And I am not being dramatic when I say that. I have built and created the best, business doesn't even feel like the right word, the best, most soul-giving, passionate work. And right now that has had to be put on a shelf while I am full-time momming. And for that, I am grateful. And also it's really hard. And I know someone's listening like, oh, what a whiny bitch. You get to be it. Like, yeah, I get it. I get it. I am #blessed. I am so deeply supported. I am financially resourced in a way that allows me to do this. And also, it's allowed to be hard. Okay, this is the same mindfuck that kept me from starting therapy for decades of like, I'm not blah, blah, blah enough to need therapy. Like, we all have different hearts and different seasons of hard. So whatever comparison you are ever playing with someone else, like, yes, we can have gratitude for the situation that we are in and see all of the beautiful gifts and the silver linings and the blessings, and also hold space for the hard. And this is what I honestly feel like I have been doing lately, is holding the nuance for it all, which my therapist tells me is incredibly healthy. I was like, it does feel like it would be a little bit easier to just fully dissociate and be like, this is great. Also feels like it would be a little bit easier to just like fully wallow in the suck. And she's like, yes, but the ability to hold space for it all is incredibly healthy. Yippee skippy. It was actually really funny. I freaking love my therapist, but I haven't seen her in like 2.5 years. I can't remember what the receptionist said when I tried to make an appointment because I had to like get a referral or whatever. But if you've listened to the podcast for any amount of time, you know I have been through a journey over the last couple of years. We call it the Wild Awakening journey now. But just like fully pulling at threads, deconstructing literally everything, rebuilding it all back together. So I felt like my first meeting with her, I was like, okay, here's like the crisis at hand. And also, I think I'm an entirely different person. So nice to meet you. Let me fill you in. Oh my gosh. Which also, like, how cool. And also, I'm like, would it have been easier to just like meet someone new for the first time? Just like jump in. And then, just to add another layer that I know will be very relatable for a lot of people listening is like, we just had 4th of July weekend, and you want to talk about holding the duality in the grief after the journey that so many of us have been on, or in the journey that so many of us are on, of like, once you start peeling back layers, once you start learning more, once you start reading more, it's like the rose-colored glasses are off. And so here we are trying to create memories and celebrate all of the beauty that this land and this environment and this community and this nation that we are a part of, everything that it could be, and all of the parts that do make it so beautiful, while also acknowledging like the really shitty history and the fucking train wrecks that we're watching in real time all the time. The 4th of July was really weird and hard for a lot of people this year. And I feel also that it is like, oh, what a privilege it has been to just now, up until this point, on a court of my own choosing, like finally have the awareness to realize that this sucks, when there have been generations and generations and generations of people who have been crumbling under the weight of this so-called freedom that we celebrate for. So again, it's the weight and the heavy and the realizations, and the more awareness that you have, and the more that you deconstruct, and the more that you take it all apart, and the more you can look at things with a critical lens. Like, it's hard. It's hard to hold it all and be a mom and not, again, crumble under the weight of what feels so heavy, both in your life, in your current circumstance, and also amidst it all. Because that, that crumbling and that grief and that sadness, without also holding space for the art and the music and the joy and the community and the celebration and the relationships and the magic that exists in the world, what good does that do? And according to my therapist, it is very healthy for us to have these conversations about the duality of both. And that is something that will never cease to amaze me about the human experience. And so today, do we have any mind-blowing takeaways? I don't know. I think if you are in a season where the version of who you used to be feels so far away, and that's incredibly disorienting. I think about the way so many of us have deconstructed, right? And you can imagine different versions of yourself that feel so disconnected. And there's this kind of free falling period of like, who am I becoming? I know more than I ever have, and that's great. In some ways, I am so much more myself than I have ever been. And yet, I know that life will never be the same. And there's also this deep grief and loneliness that I have been experiencing, and that I think a lot of other women in this community have been experiencing, even just relying on conversations that were happening in the coven yesterday, right? When you are going through it and you are, you take off those rose-covered glasses, or maybe you're in postpartum, or maybe you're in some other kind of period of your identity evolution, and it feels like nothing can ever be the same and no one quite understands. And maybe, in pulling away from the church or from family or from, relationships that no longer feel aligned, there's this ache of wanting to be seen and heard and understood. And especially if you live in places like me, but not exclusively, it's hard as your life changes, as seasons of life change, as your beliefs change, as the way that you see the world changes, to have relationships that feel like home and that feel safe. And so I made myself, before I hit record on this podcast, because I knew I was going to talk about this, I posted in a semi-local moms Facebook group. It's kind of like for the broader community around the bigger hub where we go for all the things. And I put it out there and I said, I'm looking to be more intentional with building relationships, not just for me, but for my whole family. I have so many deeply fulfilling friendships, but so many of them live states and states away. And I know that's true for many of you too, as we have turned to this beautiful gift of the internet to give us spaces where we feel understood, and with women who are on similar journeys. But unfortunately, I can't invite most of you to my kid's birthday party or over for a 4th of July barbecue. I mean, until teleportation is a thing. And so that felt kind of sticky, especially since I included some things on there of that we have deconstructed and stopped going to church. And here's what our belief system looks like. And here's, in a simplified terms, kind of how I see the world from a not even just political standpoint, but just from the kinds of questions I'm asking, And there are people that I know that are in that group. And so it feels vulnerable, and it feels like another layer of oh, if they see me, if they know the real me, in what ways am I subjecting myself to rejection? LOL, as if I'm not recording this frickin' podcast. But still, someone has to go out of their way to listen to this podcast to know what's going on. But to be able to put it out there in a very real way felt uncomfortable. And then I think of, one of my friends who's around the same age, who is looking for the person she wants to spend her life with, and the way that she just last week put herself out there in help me find my person Facebook post that has gotten shared all over the place. And I'm like, you know what? But this is what it's really about. I kind of had this vision yesterday. We were driving home from the pool, and I'm like, this 4th of July feels so hard for so many reasons within myself, in the world, for our family, and the kind of relationships and community that we crave. I said, this time next year, I will host a party at my house, and we will invite all of the people that we are connected to and that we have built intentional relationships. And next 4th of July, I will feel, I can't even say more like myself, because it's not going back. I will feel really grounded in the evolution of self that I have become. I will be 1 year removed from this depths of depression and anxiety and just hormonal experience. I will be 1 year more autonomous in my work. I will be 1 year further away from my baby not taking a bottle and needing me so deeply in this way. By the way, this month we also tried an overnight without mom, and it did not work. It did not work, and it's hard, and I know that it's hard, and I also know it's so fleeting, and it will not last forever. But right now, that is the vision that I'm clinging to, and I think that sometimes that's what we have to do when we are in a season. It is so important to recognize where we're at, hold the space for what is so good and beautiful, be able am willing to sit in the discomfort and the hard and the grief and the loneliness and the despair and know that it will not last forever, and also actively take steps to bring us to that next evolution into the season that is meant for us forever, because it will not be this hard forever unless we let it. And that doesn't mean we dissociate, we pretend it's not happening, we rush ourselves out of it, but we give ourselves the gift of continuing to commit to the women that we are becoming. And so maybe that's carving time out to go on a walk. Maybe that's posting in a local mom group. Maybe that is, I don't know, maybe that's calling a therapist. Just know that if you are in a hard season, I see you, I am you, and this will not last forever. School will start again. Our babies will get a little bit older, and then there'll be grief in other ways. If there is anything I have learned over the past, 6-7 years, it is that life is always evolving. Life is always changing. And there are periods where we feel the most like ourselves and on a high and on top of the world. And just like the seasons change, we do too. And an autumn follows summer, and then winter, and then spring comes again. So I am so grateful for you. I love you deeply. I see you, and we will get through this together. Okay. Until next time, have an absolutely wonderful week. Hey friend, I hope this conversation sparked something real in you. Something that feels like truth, curiosity, or the courage to keep becoming. If this episode resonated, I'd love for you to share it. Take a screenshot, post it to your stories, or send it to one of your friends. You can always find me over on Instagram at Emily Rushel, where I love continuing these conversations and hearing your takeaways. Truly, your DMs are one of my favorite parts of podcasting, so don't be shy. I'd love to reflect and connect with you over there. I'm so grateful to be surrounded by a community of women who ask hard questions, sit in the discomfort of the unknown, blaze new paths forward, and ultimately come home to their wild and waking selves. See you next week.